Rex, once a slave, was now a bloodied member of the Otterdini warband under Lord Vist, the man thought to have been responsible for both Rex's freedom and the abduction of his family. Under such employ, Rex had seen several of the regular battles between Caledonian tribal warlords and the army sent by the Roman Empire to hold their frontier. In the process, he had become moderately rich and learned to wield the delicate yet deadly weapon of kings, the sword. Yet, for all his successes, he was no closer to finding out where his family were, let alone coming up with a way to free them. When the warband travelled to the town of Benatia to rest, Rex found the chance for an audience with his new master. "I was wondering what exactly it is that I must do for you to tell me where they are," Rex said, keeping his eyes straight forward as he strode beside Vist at the head of their band. "The deal has not changed. You will help us take Eboracum. Then you will be free." "When will that be, my lord? Every day I let pass makes sure I have more difficulty reaching them." "I don't think so. Look at those arms now. You're not so scrawny anymore. And listen to you talking to me like I am your equal, or less. You've got that Roman spirit in you, all right." "Sorry, my lord. I didn't mean any offence, my lord." "Got that slave in you still, I see. Look, little king. If I told you right away where the boys sent them, you would be dead in a ditch right now. Not a dry ditch either. You couldn't even hold your sword straight." "I can now, my lord." "I don't believe you, but we will see in Benatia. You know, I want your quest to be a success. A lot of the old boys think there's a good tale in it. But you'll need to be something quite special to make it work, so you'll be training with the other tribes. Once we're all ready, we take the Roman fort, and if you are still alive, you will have passed the test. Which reminds me, you need to draw me out a map of the place." "As you wish, my lord. I won't let you down." "No, you won't. You are something special, aren't you? That's why I like you. You'd better do well in the bouts. I will tell everyone to keep their eye on you, little king." Vist slapped Rex on the back, and the young warrior didn't even fall over, as he had 2 months prior upon their initial agreement. He hadn't really got the answers he was looking for, but a lifetime of being a slave had given him enough patience to carry on waiting, and enough pent-up fury to prove himself on the tournament grounds of Benatia many times over. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Rex Romanum. Right now we're fighting in the tournament at Benatia, where our warband is staying, and here we're actually in the final of our first attempt at the tournament. This guy's hitting me up pretty badly with his spear, but we're armed with a sword, which is a bit more useful than a spear when you're also armed with a shield, because of how the mechanics work. So all he can do is poke at me, and I can easily block them. Eventually I'm able to slash and bring him down, causing me to win the tournament, and I get a load of money because I actually bet on myself to win, and I get some renown, making me a little bit famous at last. We'll have to win a lot of tournaments to get any substantial fame, but this is a great start considering we had pretty much no fame at all. And it doesn't end there, because the tournament just keeps going. There are several a day, so I could enter again. In the first round, someone threw a javelin at me and I went down pretty much right away, but because these tournaments are team efforts, my team still won, so I was able to carry on to the next round here. Luckily I was given a sword. Your weapon is randomized at the start of each round, and a sword is something I want to be using since I'm training my one-handed skill, and it's just useful with its moveset against pretty much any opponent setup. The opponent there psyched me out with this weird dance, as we saw. I wasn't quite sure what to make of it, and eventually he just brought me down. Luckily, once again, we go through to the next round on a team victory. This time it was 1 versus 1 versus 1. One of the guys was about to bring me down, but then the other one came up behind him, took him out, and then we've got this once again. He's doing the dance. It seems to be something to do with the fact that I'm just blocking. He goes into this weird block and attack combo dance thing, which is pretty hard to get through because you can't attack it, and he can attack you the moment you stop blocking yourself. The stalemate is eventually broken when an obstacle causes the opponent to be slightly moved away from me. So now there's some distance between us. We can get back into the rhythm of things and start attacking properly with the spear and backing away from his attack so that he misses and then leaves himself open to counterattack. So we carry on to the next round after that victory. Once again, I lost my shield. I've also almost lost all of my health. But it seems that once I'm just blocking with the spear in both hands, it causes the AI to go into this crazy run at you, blocking and attacking at the same time mode. Once again, I'm going to have to try and put some distance between me and him, and I found that one way of doing this is to stand still. They don't move so close to you if you don't move backwards. I'm about to die due to blood loss, so I need to make an attack right now, and when I finally decide to just slap with the spear, we bring him down, and then immediately I also fall due to the blood loss damage. However, that does count as a win for me, so we do move on to the final, luckily enough. Here my shield goes down right away, so I'm quickly down to just a spear, but a bit of slapping brings the enemy down. He wasn't very defensive, and I outrange him with the spear, so it wasn't too hard in the end. That's some more money and more renown for us. Normally you can go and meet all of the nobles after winning a tournament, but it's saying that I'm still not famous enough to actually go and do this. This is kind of a glitch, however, because you can just walk into the town and then walk into the hall, and then you do properly visit the feast as normal. So we'll do that, and we're also going to do some more tournaments since they keep going. Might as well take the opportunity for some training at the very least. As Rex entered the Lord's Hall, there was a stir of worry. He was wearing his newly purchased chainmail vest, giving him the appearance of one of the town guards, perhaps reporting trouble. Lord Vist quickly came forward, put his arm around the newcomer, and introduced him to all.
"He's my little secret weapon, this boy. Once a slave to the Romans, now a natural-born warrior. He calls himself, wait for it, Rex."
A few of the more travelled guests recognised the irony of the name and took a chuckle. Vist recited a version of Rex's story in which Vist himself nurtured the lost slave's potential, including coaching him for his win in the tournament grounds. Rex could only smile along, trying to keep his eyes on the ground, as a slave was wont to do among a host of nobility. Once the display was over and all resumed focus on their own dealings, one of the lords came over to Vist. "I've been looking for an escaped slave from Regionium. You said your boy hails from that end of the land, didn't you?" the man asked. Rex's nerves froze. He realised that the short arms on his new tunic left his tattooed wrists visible.
"Keep your hands off him, he's mine,"
Vist replied. "Calm down. I was going to say that one of the elders reported to me that an escaped slave protected their village from raiders. Ottadini raiders, actually."
"I keep telling you they are on their own, fur. You are always so paranoid."
"Yes, it seems that way. I just wanted to say, little king, that I don't appreciate you sneaking about up here. Brings the Romans sniffing. I hope you are as useful to your new owner as he believes." Rex did not even see the face of the man who was talking to him before Lord Fur returned to the back of the hall.
"Don't listen to him," said Vist. But you will want to listen to this man here, Bard. You heard my tale. I want the whole land to know about my little king and his noble quest."
After enough gold was deposited in a weathered wooden bowl, the bard agreed.
When the Roman ships are sinking, the oarsmen rise to flee, but the only one worthy of song is the king of Novantine. Roman Rex, the wandering boy, a sword he held up high. He said one day his kin he'd find, and he's not afraid to die. Mighty Vist of the eastern cliffs, he saw the cause was true. He gave the boy some shiny toys, and the Romans were run through.
It seems that we impressed our commanders in Benatia so much that we've been promoted to Celtic Noble Warrior, the highest rank that we can attain within the Caledonian army. This means we get some free high quality gear, although I also bought some high quality gear for myself, so we're pretty well equipped at the moment. The armies are now moving out. They band together into a coalition army and go south to attack Eboracum, the stronghold of the Romans and the headquarters of their offensive operations in the north of Britannia, so we are going to storm it. Inside, there's about 120-130 Romans, but we've got many hundreds of soldiers to charge the wall and try to break in with. As we approach, we're going to be showered with arrows. We've got a nice big shield at the moment, so we can advance in relative safety. We're also now decked out with chainmail, we've got a helmet and leather gloves, so overall we're now properly prepared for fighting. We'll have a decent defense against any sort of attack, and we look the part in general. We look more similar to the other warriors we're fighting alongside. As for our actual battle plan, there's not that much we can do. This fort is just a big ring with only one way in. The gates are sabotaged, so we can go in through it, but it's a huge choke point. You can see our armies just standing here. Fortunately, the archers on the wall quickly ran out of ammunition, so they're just watching us now, and the battle comes down to a slow grind through the Roman lines. I was noting there we've also got a few Romans on our side. Seems there have been some defections. So now I need to try and get into the fight so that Rex can prove himself in this all-important assault. This proved to be quite difficult because we have to get through our own allies and a bit of crowd surfing was required. Eventually we get somewhere near the front and can begin to take part in the fight. Since we're fighting in this gate, it presents some advantages and some disadvantages. The advantage is that by holding up our shield, we're kind of immune to damage because they can only attack us from the front. They'll have the same advantage, but they're being less diligent about using their shields, so we can every now and again just sneak in some damage by doing a quick sword swing and then getting back behind our shield. This plan won't work forever because shields can break, and it's very all or nothing because we can't go backwards now. As hard as it was to get to the front of our formation, it's even harder to move back through it because the momentum is gradually pushing everything forwards. So we're stuck here and we just have to fight. Eventually my shield breaks and now we're in a bit of trouble. I have to deflect all of the enemy sword attacks with my own sword. After a while I realised there is going to be a way for us to resolve this situation, not only doing this, letting other guys move in front with their shields, but we're actually standing on a pile of shields, as you can probably just about tell, and I eventually realised we can just pick something up from all of the fallen warriors that came before us, and bang, we're back to full shield health and can resume our plan. So far we've somehow avoided taking damage, but that's just good luck, really, and the fact the enemy are mostly attacking our allies because our allies are charging more deeply into the enemy position. We're sort of slightly keeping our distance and just trying to hit away at the enemies in front of us. There's really no respite because while it looks like there aren't that many enemies in front of us, I think the enemy formation was quite wide off to the right and left, so as we're killing people, they're just filling back in from the sides where we can't see, and it's just an endless stream of enemies that we're somehow bringing down one by one without ourselves being killed, even though the people around us have been killed lots and lots of times and are constantly being replaced. This is extremely dangerous, but we are really pulling some heroics here, so we're going to stay at the front and try to keep fighting. Once the archers start coming down from the walls to fight, then we know we're slowly approaching the end. These archers are easier to kill as well because their armor's inferior. I get pushed right to the front for a bit here. This is pretty dangerous. Now all of the enemies are starting to focus on me. I've picked up a Roman shield though, which gives me very good protection, so I'm able to block most of the attacks and only take a little bit of damage. I have though at this point started to bleed, so now my health will just slowly decline. We need the fight to end soon. Fortunately, it should end soon. There aren't that many enemies left. There's just 10 or so in the gate here, many of them focusing on me specifically. I take another hit and I'm almost dead. I'm somehow alive with no health, but as I said, my health is declining due to blood loss, so we've now just got a few seconds to hang on. Fortunately, good timing. We win the battle. The last enemy is slain as I pass out from loss of blood, but we did it. We contributed significantly to that fight, and the Romans have been kicked out of Eboracum. Hopefully Rex will now feel like he's taken his revenge on the Romans for all of the misdemeanors they will have committed against him in his life as a Roman slave. Here are the numbers in that fight. We lost about 200 troops, the enemy lost everything, just over 130, so a bad ratio, but to be expected from a fort assault. But Rex got 22 enemies in that fight. That's like 15 to 20% of the entire enemy army killed personally by Rex. Truly, he is the hero of this battle, and that's just what he needs to finally get Lord Vist to tell him everything he needs to know. Rex opened his eyes for just a moment and saw the distant ceiling of a lord's hall. His pained squirming brought Lord Vist over to look at him.
"You're awake. The healers said they weren't sure if you'd make it. They don't know you, clearly. Can you hear me?"
Rex nodded, but that was the limit to his movements for now.
"We've all downed a flask in your name after Eboracum. Your tale makes us see what the Romans do to us if we let them walk over everything. And your fury shows us what we must do to be free of their chains. Gonna be a while before the bards have a better hero to crow about. You still awake?"
Rex nodded again, but couldn't muster the energy to get his eyes open. He heard Vist pull over a stool and fall onto it with a heavy clunk. He must have still been in his battle armor.
"The truth is, those old Ottadini boys did come back here with some captives. Lots of Romans and a load of poor sods the Romans had dragged here from whatever lands are out there. I bought them all, and off the boys went again. Fur tells me you got your revenge on them already. So, the slaves, we ended up selling them to a few different groups, but there was a big ship here at the time from some place, Libya it was called. All dark-skinned and wrapped up like babies. They paid me well for the strongest of the lot. Group of 20 went off with them, including a girl your age, red hair and same marks as you on the wrist. Guessing that's your sister."
Vist fell silent for a while. Rex was enlivened by the news and managed to turn his head towards his host. He saw the man sitting hunched over, his helmet sliding slightly from his bowed head.
"Thought about it for a while," he suddenly went on, "and couldn't think of anyone who might have been your parents. No Novante folk. If those boys didn't give them to me, then chances are they didn't take them. Won't say anything more than that."
Rex turned his eyes back up at the roof. He'd been prepared for this news. His parents probably tried to fight the raiders and got killed in the chaos. They'd always been strong-hearted like that. It was what Rex would have done too if he thought they or Regni were in danger. And indeed, Regni was in danger right at that very moment. Vist stood with a sigh and stepped away from the low bed.
"That ship wasn't going back to that Libya. They were going to sell their stock in Rome. Don't know how to get there, but my maids will come help you. When you get better, take the gold under the bed. You can buy a horse in Benatia, and maybe find a few boys bored enough to work security. I feel like I don't need to tell you anything else. I hope you'll say I've paid you back for all this stuff, little king. Also feels like I'll see you again. So, until then."
Our work with Vist is done and we return to regular gameplay. I went to Benatia to grab some more gear before we start adventuring properly, and while I was here the competitions are going once again, so thought might as well join and see how we can do. In these competitions you might have noticed that using the shield with the spear seems to be a bad idea. Actually going with the shield on your back and two-handing the spear gives you the option to slash to the left and right with it, which is much more effective than just poking because it's a faster attack, and I think it has a slightly longer reach actually as well. You might think you sacrifice some defensive ability for doing this, but in Mount & Blade, a weapon blocks just as well as a shield against other weapons, so a shield's only particularly useful against ranged attacks, meaning, like in fights like that, you can block against lots of attacks coming in at once, and still just about get a few attacks in yourself, and eventually win. In this competition, we actually go on to win the whole thing, so that's great, a load more money and some renown. And as I've mentioned before, we do need renown in order to form a party, which will be our next overall objective, so that's very good. I went and fought in another competition after that, later in the same day, and again also won, so even more money and renown. This is looking good. We are totally ready to go at this point. Before I form a party, I wanted to get some food, since we'll need food to feed said party. One way of getting food is to go to the nearby villages and to use the perform work option. This effectively makes you help out on the farm, and they'll give you some food for free in return. The problem is it reduces your renown and reputation because you're being peasanty. People start to think less of you, so we don't want to do too much of this. We get some chicken from this village, which isn't that good because chicken won't last very long, meaning it's not very good for going adventuring with. I started moving back to town to actually just sell it. However, I was attacked by a group of deserters, 10 Celtic deserters, and I think it might actually be the same group that attacked me before I went to Bernati for the first time in the first episode, so this could be a chance for some revenge. It's 10 versus 1, but we're on a horse, and we're much better equipped than all of these guys. The horse is the main advantage. You can see what I'm doing here. We just literally ride rings around them, and occasionally make slashing attacks at the enemy. They can block them, but sometimes they don't. That's the long and short of it, so eventually, if we try it enough times, we'll be able to defeat them all. Got it down to the last one guy. He then took a while to kill, but we eventually got him. So there we have it. We have slain these deserters. This will also build up our reputation since we won a battle where we had a disadvantage to start off with, and we can start doing some looting to get some stuff to sell. 4 of the skirmishers we were fighting here actually survived, so we can take them as captives. That's actually going to prove to be a quite useful bargaining chip, because a load of Celtic captives is the sort of thing that the Romans might be interested in, and we're going to need to deal with the Romans if we're going to go to Rome. First, it looks like after every battle you have to decide what you're going to do with the bodies and the loot, and you have various options that take various amounts of time. We'll go with the longest one since we're in no particular rush. Make sure we get the maximum amount of loot, and I think it's regarded as being the right thing to do. You get morale and reputation for doing it. So here's the stuff we're getting. It looks like we're actually skinning these guys and taking their whole bodies, but we're supposed to be taking their underwear or something in this case. Well, it's worth something, so we're gonna have to do it. So we grab all the gear and take it back to town where we can sell it off and just enhance our bank account a little bit. I'm pretty rich at this point, but not really rich enough as it turns out. I tried to do some recruitment here in the town, but the group of guys who want to come with me are asking for absolutely tons of money. I think it's because they're noblemen, so you'd get a load of high quality troops for that money, but we can't go throwing away all of our money right away, so I'm not going to bother. You can see we're up to level 10 after all of the action we've gone through so far, pretty respectable. And I've also now got strength level 10. This will allow me to equip a heavy lance that I've bought and make me much more deadly on horseback. As for what we're actually going to do next, we need to visit Londinium, the centre of Roman administration in Britannia, because we'll need to get in with the Romans a little bit and begin working out how we can get ourselves to Rome. We're going to take those Celtic captives with us. This will give us a nice cover story. We're obviously not a Caledonian spy because we're here delivering some captive slaves. At least that's how it's going to appear. So that's how we'll get our foot in the door. But to get the Romans to do anything for us, we're probably going to have to work quite hard. Daily practice with experienced warriors had turned Rex from an indentured farmer into one of the most promising warriors the tribes of Britannia had ever seen. He had learned to wield a sword and spear, and do both from horseback, a mark not just of skill but of nobility. With his abilities proven and his obligations met, Rex was let out into the world to begin his task in earnest, to act on Vist's clue and travel to the slave markets of Rome. It was a whole world away, and that world was not likely to let him pass unchallenged. but there was nothing he need not risk until his task was done. Thank you for watching this episode of Rex Romanum, and a special thanks to the OfficiallyDevin patrons for funding the channel. Rex will set foot for the first time on the mainland and start gathering companions to help him in his quest in the next part of Rex Romanum.